it's my pleasure also to join you. Let us first understand exactly what is the provision of the law and why NA has issued or these notices, or maybe so to say why they are insisting that they reduce the prices. So when the GST was introduced, there was a provision under the law which said that any benefit on account of a lower rate of GST or an increase in input credits available to the company has to be necessarily passed on to the customers. Now here is a situation where on sanitary pads, where the initial rate was 12% and which was reduced to nil on 27th of July, obviously there is a reduction in the rate, and therefore the general understanding is that the prices have to go down or should go down. Now obviously this has not happened to the extent it was desired, or maybe it has not happened at all, and that's where NAA is questioning these companies as to why you have not still reduced the prices.
Right. Manish, what I want to understand is that, as you rightly mentioned, sanitary pads came under a lot of discussion when the GST slabs were initially announced. Now that the GST slab is down to zero, what is really stopping the companies from passing on these benefits to the consumers?
So two things here. One is obviously there is an apprehension or anticipation that there is a benefit to the companies because the GST rates have gone down. But another point here is that as to what is the quantum of the benefit, that needs to be determined. Now on the one hand, when we say that this 12% GST rate, when it became nil, what is the benefit there? So obviously at a very broad level you can say that there should be a 12% price reduction, but then that is not the case, because when you move to a nil rate, the input tax credits which are allowed to you are not allowable anymore. So they become a cost. And now when we talk of sanitary pads here, we are talking of inputs like glues or polythene which are taxed at 18%, and then you have absorbent papers and cottons or whatever other ingredients which are mostly taxed at 12%. Add to it cost of services which could be ranging between 18% to 28%. Or other overheads.
Right. Manish, what I want to understand specifically is what are the challenges that the companies really are facing on ground? We do know that the companies have replied saying that it will be impossible for them for the 12% reduction to reflect immediately. So what are the challenges for the companies? So
that's what, so the point is the actual gains that we are talking of by way of reduction in the GST rates would range from 2.5% to 3% at a very broad level, and that's what we have heard from the industry. And this is largely because the input tax credits are not allowable anymore. Now the bigger challenge also is to work out the exact numbers that they need to pass on as benefits, and it takes time. Because if you think of a company like a Procter & Gamble or a Johnson & Johnson, a multi-product, multi-jurisdiction company, and having several manufacturing facilities, there are many items of costs which are accumulated to see a final product, whether it's a napkin or whether it's a drug or pharmaceutical. Now obviously to assess as to what is the exact benefit that needs to be passed on to the customers takes time, particularly because it has to be reflected in the prices, and you are talking about an industry which is MRP driven, so the prices have to be mentioned on the packs. So it takes a bit of time. Now other challenge also is that in terms of the anticipation which gets created, because obviously there is a social aspect here, because we are talking of sanitary napkins, and the fact is that people expect it to happen soon. But we have seen in the past also, when the GST was introduced, it took a lot of time for large companies to evaluate the exact quantum of gains. And I know from practical experience that some of them are still struggling to do this. So that is where the challenge is arising.
Right.
And one fact is that law is law, and obviously you have to follow it. So whatever gains are there, whether it's 2% or 3%, eventually has to pass on.
Right. Manish, we do understand the allegations from the NAA side, and they are angry because the consumers are not getting the benefits. But if you understand the side of the companies, what they are saying is that sanitary pads are not the only products they have. They have a wide range of products, and that is a part of it. They also have something like separate input costs, and thus the delay in reduction. Is this a valid argument from the company's side?
To a large extent, yes, because if you're talking of a company which has 1,000 products, now obviously one product, if rates go down from 12% to nil, obviously on the output side you can immediately compute the quantum of impact which is there in terms of price reduction. But on the input side, to allocate the specific costs which are going into that product, and particularly in case of overheads, it's a slightly larger exercise that one needs to carry out. Because also keep in mind that for a company like a Johnson & Johnson or a P&G, sanitary pads would constitute a very small proportion of the total turnover which they have. So that's where I'm sure that these companies are also facing challenges.
Right. You know, what I also want to understand is, should the NAA really be training its gun on specific products?
See, the products or the sectors which are going to be picked up for anti-profiteering studies are the obvious ones. So you are talking of FMCG sector, pharma, or food items or restaurants. That's where the focus has been as of now, and mostly on the B2C segment. So where products are sold for immediate consumption in the supply chain. Now that's where the immediate focus is going to be, and since there was a lot of hue and cry raised in context of sanitary napkins, obviously there is a lot of attention right now which NAA is trading on these companies. So that's where the problem is. But also keep in mind one thing, that we are talking of a product which is being used by only 20% of the entire female population of India. So only reducing the tax rate may not be the optimal solution here.
Right. You know, Manish, lastly, I also want to understand now, can this process really be seen as linear, or does it really have to be on an object basis? Because the NAA is being very specific when it's coming down on these companies.
See, two things here. I mean, the process is not linear for sure. When we look at the costings and when we look at the way the prices are worked out. Also the fact that if the real intention is to bring about a reduction in the prices, now to have output taxed at nil rate but the inputs getting taxed at a very high rate would mean a distortion or duty inversion, and in that situation obviously the benefit would not go to the customers. So in this situation, what could have also been done was that the inputs which are getting used for manufacture of these products should have also come down. I mean, the GST rate should have also been brought down to the same level of output tax, so that there was a parity in terms of how you work out the prices. So for example, if sanitary pads are now taxed at nil rate but the inputs are getting taxed at 12 or 18%, the prices, the tax rates on those inputs should have also been slashed, so that there was a significant benefit. Because what we are talking of, for a pack of sanitary napkins which has 10 napkins, you're talking of a 1 rupee reduction. Probably I don't think that the consumer also would be very happy about it.
Right. You know, lastly, Manish, what I want to understand, so where is the final lag? Now for a consumer who's on ground, who doesn't understand the nitty-gritties, what the NAA is pulling up these companies for, where does he or she really see the price reduction?
See, as I said, it will take them time. Probably, I believe that 1 month is a good time, and now we are about to reach that stage. And obviously, if the price reduction does not take place, obviously NAA has the authority to direct or to take the requisite action on these companies which are not compliant with the law. And I believe that you should see whatever benefits that we are talking of, whether it's 2% or 3% or 1 rupee on a pack, should eventually happen, I believe, by the end of this month effectively.